Okay, so you know when you're prepping for a job interview and you think about like all the questions they could ask you,
Hmm.
and there's always that one question that just kind of like makes your palms sweat a little bit.
Yeah.
The strengths and weaknesses question.
Oh, yeah. It's a tough one. It's like you're trying to walk this tightrope between sounding confident but not cocky, you know?
Right.
You want to come across as self-aware but not tear yourself down either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to find that balance.
It is.
Well, luckily for you, we did a deep dive into this exact topic with a little help from a YouTube video called What Are Your Strengths and Weaknesses by CareerVids.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that one. It's pretty good.
It is.
Yes.
And they had some surprisingly specific advice. I was really impressed.
Yeah, they go beyond just the usual, like, be a team player stuff.
Totally. And the first thing that really stood out to me was why this question even matters so much to hiring managers. Like, it's not just some random corporate ritual, right?
Right.
So what's the method behind the madness?
So it boils down to two main things, really. And they both revolve around making sure you're the right fit for the company and for the role they're trying to fill. So first and foremost, they want to see if your strengths actually align with what the company needs. Like, are you bringing something valuable to the table?
Like a return on investment almost.
Exactly. It's a calculated decision for them.
Okay.
And then the second thing they're looking at is your potential for growth.
Mm.
You know, are you self-aware enough to recognize areas where you can improve? Are you open to learning and developing your skills?
So it's not just about bragging or being overly modest either. It's about showing them that you understand your value and that you're committed to becoming even better.
Absolutely. It's about growth mindset all the way.
Okay, so that's a really helpful way to reframe this whole strengths and weaknesses thing.
Yeah, forget about trying to present this like picture perfect version of yourself in the interview.
Right.
It's really about showcasing your value and your potential. You know, one thing I really appreciated about that CareerVids video was how they got really specific about identifying your strengths.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they went way beyond the typical, like, team player and hard worker buzzwords.
I know. They had some interesting ones listed, like embracing change and taking the lead.
Right, exactly. And those aren't usually the first things that come to mind.
No, not at all.
But think about it. From a hiring manager's perspective, those strengths directly translate into solving problems for them. Like, let's say you're applying for a job at a fast-paced startup.
Okay.
And you can say, hey, I thrive on embracing change. That's huge.
Because it means you're adaptable.
Exactly. You're already one step ahead. You're telling them you can handle whatever gets thrown your way.
Less training, less resistance for that.
Exactly. And who doesn't want that?
Makes sense. So then what about taking the lead?
Oh, that one's gold. Especially in a team environment. It shows initiative problem-solving skills, the ability to just step up when needed.
Which are all super valuable.
Absolutely. Now, the tricky part is the whole weaknesses thing.
Ugh, I know, right?
Right.
It feels so counterintuitive to talk about your weaknesses in a job interview.
It goes against every instinct we have, right?
Totally. We're programmed to highlight our successes, not our flaws.
Right. But this video actually flips that on its head and suggests weaknesses that could actually be seen as strengths.
Okay, now you're going to have to explain this one because when I saw that in the video, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, so they had things listed like impatience and difficulty delegating.
I remember.
It's almost like reverse psychology because
Yeah.
you're not really presenting a weakness in the traditional sense. You're reframing a potentially positive trait as something you're working on.
Okay, so for instance, how would you spin impatience as a good thing?
Okay, so let's say you're interviewing for a job that requires a really fast turnaround time, like maybe a newsroom or something.
Okay.
If you frame impatience the right way, it can actually show that you're driven and results-oriented and eager to get things done.
Like you have a sense of urgency?
Exactly, which can be a major asset in a fast-paced environment.
That's true.
And the key is it also demonstrates self-awareness without being too self-deprecating.
So you're acknowledging you have areas to improve, but you're not putting yourself down.
Exactly. It's a delicate balance, but when it's done well, it can be super effective.
Okay, so for our listeners out there who are thinking, this all sounds great in theory, but how do I actually use this in an interview? What would you recommend? Yeah, because it's one thing to like identify a potential weakness and try to spin it, but then you actually have to like articulate that clearly in the interview.
Right, and that's where the CareerVids video really shines because they give you these two solid examples of how to answer the strengths and weaknesses question.
They do. And I found them super helpful.
Yeah, they break it down really well. Like they show you the structure of a strong answer.
Yeah.
And they highlight these key phrases that really make a difference.
I like how they connect their strengths back to the company's values.
Yes, exactly. Like one of the examples talks about being a collaborator and how they thrive in team environments.
Which is basically saying, hey, my collaboration skills are going to make your team even better.
Exactly. You're not just talking about yourself in isolation. You're showing how your strengths directly benefit the company.
Right. And then there's the whole weaknesses part of the answer.
Yeah. How do you handle that gracefully?
Well, one of the examples talks about difficulty delegating.
Which, let's be real, that's a common one, especially for people who are really
I
detail-oriented.
know, they want to make sure everything's done right.
Exactly. But instead of dodging it, the example explains how they're actively working on improving their delegation skills. Like they talk about setting clear expectations and trusting their team members more.
So it shows they're self-aware and proactive.
Exactly. And that's huge for a hiring manager. They want to see that you're willing to learn and grow.
Absolutely. It's not about being perfect. It's about being committed to self-improvement.
Right. And the language they use in the examples is so strategic.
It is.
They frame everything in a way that emphasizes growth and progress. It's like those weaknesses become opportunities for learning.
It's like they're saying, yeah, I have this area I'm working on, and here's how I'm tackling it head on.
Exactly. It shifts the whole perspective.
Instead of this like unrealistic image of perfection.
Which no one actually believes anyway.
Right. So this has been a really insightful deep dive into this whole strengths and weaknesses question.
It really has.
And I think the biggest takeaway here is to remember that it's not about bragging or being overly modest.
It's about showcasing your unique value.
Exactly. How your strengths align with what the company needs.
And your commitment to constantly learning and growing.
So as you're prepping for those job interviews, really take some time to think about your experiences. Where did a potential weakness actually become a strength?
Those are the stories that are going to resonate.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to share them. And on that note, I think we're going to wrap up this deep dive. But before we go, we wanted to leave you with a little something to think about. The Career Vids video really emphasized the importance of self-awareness.
Which is crucial.
It really is.
Yeah.
So as you continue your job search and interview prep, think about this. What are some strategies you can use to really get to know yourself objectively? Both your strengths and your weaknesses.
It's an ongoing process.
It is, but it's so worth it. That's all for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.